देवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं उदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, text number 40. Tvam api adabrashruta vishrutam vibho. Tvam api adabrashruta vishrutam vibho. समाप्यते येन विदां बुभुत्सितं समाप्यते येन विदां बुभुत्सितं प्रख्याहि दुःखे मोहो आर्दितात्मनां प्रख्याहि दुःखे मुहुरार्दितात्मनां संक्लेश निर्वाणम उशन्ति नान्यता संक्लेश निर्वाणम उशन्ति नान्यता त्वमप्यविद्र अभद्रश्रुत विभृतं विभो समाप्यते येन विदां बुभुप्सितं प्रख्याहि दुःखेर्मुहुरार्दितात्मनां संक्लेश निर्वाणमुशन्ति नान्यता. येन विदां बुभुप्सितां प्रख्याहि दुःखेर्मुहुरार्दितात्मनां संक्लेश निर्वाणमुशन्ति नात्मनः. समाप्यते येन विदां विपुंप्लुतः प्राख्याहि दुःखेर्मुहुरार्दितात्मनां संक्लेश निर्माणमुशन्ति नान्यता. त्वमप्यदभ्रश्रुत विश्रुतं विभो समाप्यते येन विदां बुभुप्सितं प्रख्याहि दुःखेर्मुहुरार्दितात्मनां संक्लेश निर्वाणमुशन्ति नान्यता. Word meaning. Tvam, your good soul. Api, also. Abhadra, adabra, vast. Big difference between abhadra and adabra. Shruta, Vedic literatures. Vishrutam, have heard also. Vibho, of the Almighty. Samapyate, satisfied. Ena, by which. Vidam, of the learned. Bubupsitam, who always desire to learn transcendental knowledge. Prakyahi, describe. Dukhai, by miseries. Mohu, always. Ardita Atmanam, suffering mass of people. Sanklesha, suffering. Nirvanam, mitigation. Ushanti, na, do not get out of. Anyata, by other means. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Please therefore describe the Almighty Lord's activities which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of the great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Please repeat the translation. Please, therefore, describe the Almighty Lord's activity which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Purport. Sri Narada Muni, from practical experience, definitely asserts that the prime solution of all problems of material work is to broadcast very widely the transcendental glories of the Supreme Lord. There are 4 classes of good men, and there are 4 classes of bad men also. The 4 classes of good men acknowledge the authority of the Almighty God, and therefore such good men, when they are in difficulty, when they are in the need of money, when they are advanced in knowledge, and when they are inquisitive to know more and more about God, intuitively take shelter of the Lord. As such, Naraji advises Vasudeva to broadcast the transcendental knowledge of God in terms of the vast Vedic knowledge which he had already attained. As far as the bad men are concerned, they are also 4 in number. Those who are simply addicted to the mode of progressive fruity work and thus are subjected to the accompanying miseries. Those who are simply addicted to vicious work of sense gratification and so suffer the consequence. Those who are materially very much advanced in knowledge but have no sense to acknowledge the authority of the Almighty Lord and thus suffer a lot. And the class of men who are known as atheists and therefore purposely hate the very name of God, although they are always in difficulty. Sri Naraji advised Vasudeva to describe the glories of the Lord, just to do good to all the 8 classes of men, both good and bad. SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is therefore not meant for any particular class of men or sect. It is for the sincere soul who wants actually his own welfare and peace of mind. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the first canto, 5th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Sri Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vasudeva. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauravaktarunda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this chapter, Narada Muni, he came to Badrikashram to meet Vasudeva, who was in a perplexed condition, in a confused condition. And Narada Muni is trying to resolve his perplexed situation by giving him the directions on what he is supposed to do. So this verse, today's verse, is the last verse of this chapter. So it's a conclusion of the instructions so far Narada Muni has given to Vasudeva. So in conclusion, Narada Muni is giving 2 important instructions to Vasudeva in this verse. One instruction is that Narada Muni, Vasudeva, should describe the Almighty Lord's activities, the activities of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, which Narada Muni himself has learnt by vast knowledge of the Vedas, which he is referring to Vasudeva. Vasudeva has written so many Vedas and still he has not compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. It doesn't mean that he doesn't know about the God. Only thing, he was not actually aware that, to write about the exclusive glories of the Lord. But otherwise, he is having a vast knowledge of the Vedas. So then, Narada Muni is saying that what will happen when the general mass of people, when they hear that Almighty Lord's activities? So two things will happen. One is what? It will satisfy the hankerings of the great learned men. It will satisfy the hankerings of the great learned men. And at the same time, mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. So, Narada Muni is advising Vyasadeva to write Srimad Bhagavatam, which is nothing but exclusive glorification of the Supreme Lord's activities, His pastimes, His name, and by those descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam about the Supreme Lord. So it will cater to both the section of the society. One section of the society is those who are advanced transcendentalists, those who are already on the path of bhakti, those who are already on the path of transcendental realization. So even for them also, that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men. And at the same time, there are some ignorant mass of people, those who are actually not so much concerned about the progressive values of life, because they are they are struggling with their basic problems, food, shelter, cloth, and because of their material problems they are suffering in this world. So Srimad Bhagavatam will also mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. And Narada Muni is making a very last conclusion statement. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. If at all the general mass of people wants to get out of the miseries, there is no other means other than hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. And Srimad Bhagavatam contains only these two activities: chanting and hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord. So we all know Srimad Bhagavatam. From Srimad Bhagavatam, so Shukadeva Goswami became purified just by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And Parishit Maharaj also became purified just by hearing those glorification, hearing those very auspicious names of the Supreme Lord. So chanting and hearing, this is the only way by which the general mass of people, whether they are advanced in knowledge or whether they are in the midst of the miseries, they can. This is the only way by which they can come out of their miseries, from their struggle in this material world. So in the purport, Prabhupada lists about there are four kinds of people: those who surrender to God. Basically, this even Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita. And there are four classes of men: those who don't surrender to the Lord. So both are explained in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. So there are Krishna explains first about people, those who don't surrender to Lord. Who are those? Namam dushkrutino mooda prapadyante naradama maya aparuta gnanam asurim bhava mashrita. So these are the four classes of men: those who don't surrender to the Lord. They don't obey the supremacy of the Lord. Here, Prabhupada in the purport mentions about those four classes of men. Though here Prabhupada calls them as good men and bad men. So bad men are those who are simply addicted to the mode of progressive fruity work and are subjected to accompanying miseries. So basically, those who don't surrender to the Lord, and they are subjected to so many miseries because of their progressive fruity work. The very nature of fruity work in this world is what? It will bind you to this material world. Fruity work whether it may be pious or impious. It may be pious activities or sinful activity. Both will bind a person to this material world. In fact, sinful activities are, they will directly bind. Pious activities, they indirectly bind. So that's why those kind of, for them to surrender to the Lord is very, very difficult. Then those who are simply addicted to vicious work of sense gratification, sense satisfaction, and so suffer the consequence. Any sense gratificatory activity is always followed with some kind of miseries. You eat more, you will have diarrhea, you will have so many problems. If you eat less, you will have a lot of other problems, TB, weakness. Any activity, you do it in excess and do it for your own sense gratification, what will happen? That will lead to some kind of consequences which is suffering in nature, not enjoyment, only suffering. And third, those who are materially very much advanced in knowledge but have no sense to acknowledge the authority of the Almighty Lord and thus suffer a lot. Maya apahruta gnana. They are materially very, very advanced, but what is the use of that advancement? Because their knowledge is taken away by the Maya, material energy. So in spite of materially advanced, they will not be able, they will still suffer because their real knowledge is completely taken away. What they are thinking of so-called advancement in knowledge is nothing but its ignorance. Then fourth class of men are who are known as atheists and therefore purposely hate the very name of God, although they are always in difficulty. Even though they are in difficulty, but they will never ever utter the Supreme Lord's name. They hate the Supreme Lord's name. They are known as atheistic class of men, those who are actually Asuri Bhava Mashritaha, Asuri Bhava, demoniac mentality persons. And then Krishna again explains about, then very next verse Krishna explains, there are four classes of men, they surrender to the Supreme Lord. Who are those four classes of men? Chaturvidha Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritino Arjuna Artho Artharthi Jigyasu Gyanicha Bharatarshaba. Artho Artharthi Gyani Jigyasu. So these are the four classes of men, those who surrender to the Supreme Lord. So that here Prabhupada mentions, the first one is those who are in difficulty, Artho. When they are in need of money, Artharthi. When they are advanced in knowledge, Gyani. And then fourth class, when they are inquisitive to know more and more about the God, Jigyasu. So here, those who surrender to the Lord are one of the characteristics is that they are advanced in knowledge. That is Gyanis. They come and surrender to the Lord. On the other hand, those who doesn't surrender to the Lord, that also is explained, those who are materially very much advanced in knowledge. So another class of men, those are materially very much advanced in knowledge. They are also advanced in knowledge, but they don't surrender to the Lord. Why? Because their advancement of knowledge is in Tamoguna. Mayaya apahrta gnana. Their knowledge has been taken away by Maya. So they will not be able to discriminate what is right, what is wrong. But whereas Gyanis, yes, they are advanced in knowledge, but their advancement of knowledge is towards the Supreme Lord, towards the destination, not opposite way. So when their knowledge is in that way, what happens actually? So that Krishna in the first canto, second chapter of Bhagavatam, Suta Goswami explains, Shunvatam Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto hi Abhadrani Vidunodi Suhrut Satam. So Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his message, which are in themselves virtuous when they are properly heard and chanted. Punya Shravana Kirtana. The hearing of the Lord's holy name is the Punya, most pious activity which a person can perform in this world. Recently, in one of the lectures, very recent lecture regarding Dhruva Maharaj austerity, so Madhu Pandit Prabhu lecture. So Dhruva Maharaj, one day a devotee asked a question. Prabhu, Dhruva Maharaj underwent tapasya for 6 months, such a severe type of tapasya. And after the severe type of tapasya, what happened? The Lord appeared. Even though he wanted to go back to Godhead, but Lord said, no, you remain in this world. And then he ruled the world. And then he went back to Godhead. So, but that kind of opulence, that kind of special opportunity is not there with us. Neither we are doing any kind of austerity, nor are we fortunate enough to have the Lord's face-to-face darshan. There in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to go back to Godhead, but Lord said, you please rule this world. When the time comes, that time you can come back to Godhead. So, but how is that? We can get, generally it is said that, by performing devotional service, we can get the same results which yogis and gyanis used to get during Satya Yuga and other yugas. How is that? What kind of austerity are we performing? So the highest kind of austerity a person can perform in this world is not only chanting, hearing the Supreme Lord's holy name. Chanting anyway we do. It's a regulative principle for us. Every day we do. But the most austerity, the most severe type of penance is hearing that holy name. Not just chanting, hearing the holy name. So if we are sincerely hearing, we can get the same results which Dhruva Maharaj got, which Prahlad Maharaj got, which Narada Muni got, which Parikshit Maharaj got. So chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the highest pious activity in this world. And similarly, hearing after chanting is the highest type of penance a person can perform in this world. So and that is such a severe type of penance. Immediately it can transform us to the spiritual world, even being situated in this material world, even being situated in this own material body. So that is the glories of the holy name. That's why Narada Muni is saying here to Veda Vyas that you describe the Almighty Lord's activity which you have learned from the vast Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of the great learned men. That will what it will do? Hridyantastohi abhadrani vidunoti surasatam. How it will satisfy the hankerings? How by hearing the holy name of the Lord, or by hearing about the activities of the Lord, how it will actually satisfy the hankerings of the great learned men? It will remove the hankerings itself. Hridyantastohi punya shravana kirtana, hridyantastohi abhadrani vidunoti surutsatam. All the abhadras, all inauspicious things are removed from the heart. So this is for the persons, those who are great learned men. And what about for the general masses of people? For general mass of people, or suppose one who is artho, one who is in distress, or one who is an artharthi, when he comes and when he surrenders to the Lord, what will happen? What actually happens when a artharthi or artho, he comes and surrenders to the Lord, or he prays to the Lord, Lord, I am in a great difficulty, please give me money. I am in a great distressful condition, please take me out of this condition. What will happen? The Lord will immediately give him money, or Lord will immediately remove him from that apparent so-called suffering condition. Yes, sometimes the Lord may give money, sometimes the Lord may remove him from those anchorings, but that's not actually the desired result. That is not the actual benediction which we can take it from the Lord. The Lord has much more to give. It's just like going to a करोड़पति, एक करोड़पति व्यक्ति के पास जाके 10 रुपए दे दो. It looks so funny, right? It looks so funny कि हम करोड़पति के पास जाके 10 रुपए मांग रहे हैं. उनसे हम क्या नहीं मांग सकते हैं? 1 लाख रुपए, वो भी आपसे बहुत संतुष्ट है, आप जो मांगे वो देने के लिए तैयार है. तब क्या करना है? कुछ ऐसे मांगना है जो कुछ सब्सटैंशियल हो. So here we are going to the Supreme Lord. So, but in spite, even though one who is having artho or artharthi, one who is in distress condition, one who want money, still is advised to go to the Supreme Lord only, not to any other demigods or not to any other personalities. Why? Because that's what happens. Hridyantastohi abhadrani. All the abhadras, all the inauspicious things, all the fruity mentality, all that what we are carrying while going to the Supreme Lord, that itself becomes completely cleansed. It will become cleansed. It is not. It doesn't happen with any other demigods. That's why Krishna very strongly denies demigod worship in Bhagavad Gita. What Krishna tells those who are worshippers of demigods? Yeah, what Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita? Prapadya Kamaisthite Rutagnana Prapadyante Anya Devata. Those who are too much afflicted by material desires, they go to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna calls them as Alpa Medasaha, very, very less intelligent. कोई अच्छे सुमेधसा नहीं है. सुमेधसा is a person with a good brain substance, very intelligent person. But they are here, those who go to the demigods, they are, Krishna derides them. Krishna criticizes them. Why? Because when you go to the demigods, they may satisfy your some immediate desires. That too, if it is there in your karma. That too, if it is there in your karma, they can do some calculations. What is the one example is that once a lady goes to a saintly person, so she offers obeisances. So then he blesses her that Putravati Bhava. So then immediately she becomes so happy, and again she falls at the feet of the saintly person and tells Maharaj, बहुत सालों से शादी होके इतना साल होने के बावजूद भी मुझे बच्चे नहीं हो रहे थे. आपका आशीर्वाद से मुझे बच्चा हो सकता है, आपने क्योंकि पुत्रवती भवा करके बोल दिया. देन द सेंटली पर्सन स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग कि कितना साल से बच्चे नहीं हुए हैं और मैंने बोल दिया पुत्रवती भवा. Then from his Vedic yogic power, he could see that in that particular life, she was not to be blessed with a son. It's like kind of a curse. उस जन्म में उनको बच्चे नहीं होने वाला था. Now what to do? He has told Putravati Bhava, a saintly person's blessing cannot go in vain. So what he does, then he sees her karma cycle, complete scale of her karma. So in one of the previous life, she had done some good pious activity. Because of that, in the next, after some 10-15 lifetimes, she was to be blessed with a good son. So what that yogi does is that he shifts that karma which was supposed to happen after 15th birth, उसको थोड़ा पीछे लेके आए. और क्योंकि इन्होंने पुत्रवती बाबा बोला था, तो देन उन्होंने उनको उस जन्म में जो मिलने वाला कर्मा इस पे लेके आए. दिस इज व्हाट इवन सेंटली पर्सन्स or any demigods can do to general mass of people when they go to the demigods. तो यदि हमारा कर्मा में लिखा है तभी demigods दे सकते हैं. And demigods cannot purify our consciousness. Like it is said that in Varanasi, in Manikarnika Ghat, those who leave their body, so when at the time of cremation, what happens? Lord Shiva comes, because he is a Kashipati, he is Varanasi Nath, so he comes and chants Lord Rama's name in the ear of that departed soul, so that he can go back to Godhead. So that's because Shiva is a Param Vaishnava. He knows what is actually what is the ultimate benefit for the living entity. So that's why Shiva is able to chant the holy name of Lord Ram. But in the case of other demigods, they may not be properly situated in that consciousness. Or the purpose of demigods awarding some benediction is not ultimately to go back to Krishna. So that is the reason Krishna very strongly recommends not to worship any demigods. Even if someone has any material desire, whether he is Artho, Artharthi, Jnani or Jignasu, whatever he may be, he is recommended to go to Supreme Lord only. So when he goes to the Supreme Lord, obviously what happens? He remembers the Lord. He chants the holy name of the Lord. So when he is chanting, all abhadras, all inauspicious things will get vanquished, will get cleansed away. All abhadras are very much cleansed. Then that person, one who is worshipping, he can go back to Godhead. So that's why here Narada Muni is towards the conclusion of this chapter is strongly recommending to Vyasadeva that you describe the Almighty Lord's activity, which will satisfy hankerings of the great learned soul, as well as it can mitigate the miseries of the common mass of people. So Srimad Bhagavatam is known as Amala Purana, Paramahamsa Samhita, it's known as the Satvata Samhita. Persons, those who are very much in their advanced consciousness, they also take relish in hearing and chanting about Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not that Srimad Bhagavatam is heard only in the common mass of people, like some of the yogis or some of the Mayavadis. They accuse Bhakti yogis that yes, there are sentimentalists. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when we visited Varanasi. So the Mayavadi sannyasis, they started criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You are a sannyasi. Your main purpose should be to read Vedanta. You should read Vedas. There are so many literatures are there you should read. Instead, as a sentimentalist, you are chanting and dancing on the streets. What kind of a sannyasi are you? It doesn't befit a sannyasashrama. You are demeaning the value of sannyasashrama. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no. My Guru said, I am a fool number one. I cannot understand all these Vedantas. I cannot understand all these, complicated Vedic literatures. That's why my Guru said, you just chant this mantra and dance. And when I chant, dancing automatically comes out. It's not that every time we have to force ourselves to dance. Automatically dancing will come. What should I do? That's why I have come to you. Please teach me something. So then they sat for discussion. Then towards the end of the discussion, they themselves turned out to be Bhakti yogis. So generally Mayavadis criticize devotees or the followers of Bhakti yoga as very, very sentimentalist, chanting, dancing, deity worship. What is this? What kind of activity are you doing? You are not engaged in very strict study of Vedic literatures, Vedanta Sutras, Vyakarana, grammar, all those things you don't read, logic. So, but Bhakti yogis need not have to go through this. That is the essence mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Just simply chant and hear the holy name of the Lord, then we can attain that highest benefit which yogis or great devotees can attain. So towards the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, the last chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th chapter, the last chapter, describes about glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So after describing all activities from first canto, starting from the creation, the cosmic manifestation, different manus and different rulers of this world, after describing sun dynasty, moon dynasty, different activities of the great devotees of the Lord, then after describing the exclusive pastimes of the Lord in the 10th canto, and 11th canto describes about what? 11th canto describes about Kali Yuga, age of degradation, what actually happens in Kali Yuga. Then after that, in the 12th canto, towards the end of the 12th canto, so Vedavyasa describes about Srimad Bhagavatam. What are the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam? So in that Vedavyasa starts writing, Purana Sankhya Sambhutim Asya Vacha Prayojane Dhanam Dhanasya Mahatmyam Pathedascha Nibodhatha. Now, please hear a summation of the verse length of each of the Puranas. Then hear of the prime subject and purpose of this Bhagavata Purana, the proper method of giving it as a gift, and glories of such gifting, and finally the glories of hearing and chanting this literature. So here, before coming to Srimad Bhagavatam, here Suta Goswami is describing this. So he describes about different Vedic literatures, starting from Brahmam Dasha Sahasrani, Padmam Panchama Shashticha, Shri Vaishnava Trayo Vimshas, Chatur Vimshati Shaivakam. So here it's a very lengthy verse. It's 6 verses combined together is explained here. So here is describing about different Vedic literatures and how many verses are there in each Vedic literature. So here it is mentioned, the Brahma Puranas consists of 10,000 verses and Padma Purana 55,000, Vishnu Purana 23,000 and Shiva Purana 24,000 and Srimad Bhagavatam 18,000. And Narada Purana has 25,000, Markandeya Purana 9,000, Agni Purana 15,400 and Bhavishya Purana 14,500 and Brahma Vaivarta Purana 18,000 and Linga Purana 11,000, Varaha Purana contains 24,000 and Skanda Purana 81,100, Vamana Purana 10,000, Kurma Purana 17,000, Matsya Purana 14,000, Garuda Purana 19,000 and Brahmanda Purana 12,000. The total number of verses in all the Puranas is 400,000. How much is 400,000? 4 lakh. 18,000 of these once again belong to the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. Out of 4 lakh verses, so 18,000 belongs to Srimad Bhagavatam. So further, it was this Srimad Bhagavatam, it was to Lord Brahma that the Supreme Personality of Godhead first revealed the Srimad Bhagavatam in full. At that time, Brahma, frightened by material existence, was sitting on the lotus flower that had grown from the Lord's navel. So, Lord Brahma had Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hruday Adikavaye. And he heard from how many verses? Just 4 verses, Chatushlokish Bhagavatam. So, in 4 verses, the Lord has explained, that is further expanded into 18,000. Then further, from the beginning to end, Srimad Bhagavatam is full of narrations that encourage renunciation of material life as well as nectarian accounts of Lord Hari's transcendental pastimes, which give ecstasy to the saintly devotees and demigods. This Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy because its subject matter is the absolute truth, which, while non-different from the spirit soul, is the ultimate reality, one without a second. The goal of this literature is exclusively devotional service unto that supreme truth. So when the people say that Srimad Bhagavatam are bhakti yogis, they are sentimentalists. They don't want to study Vedanta Sutras. That's why they take to this easiest process. This easiest process is recommended by the author himself, Vedavyasa, on recommendation of his spiritual master. And this spiritual master got this knowledge from Brahma, and Brahma got this knowledge from Krishna himself. So that's why this knowledge is nothing but the direct message of Lord Shri Krishna. And it describes about 2 primary subject matters. In principle, 2 subject matters are described as per this verse. One is, it encourages renunciation of material life, starting from the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Whereas other Vedic literatures, they say, okay, if you want to live a good life, you do this vrata. If you want a good wife, you do this kind of austerity. If you want money, you perform this tapasya. If you want good education, if you want beauty, if you want a fame, for everything there are recommendations in the Vedic literatures. Just like when Mother Aditi, after the demigods were defeated, she wanted to have a son who can defeat the demons and get back the kingdom back to the demigods, her sons. So she was suggested to do Payorata. The name of the austerity is Payorata. Payorata austerities, Payorata puja. So it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam only. Why it is mentioned? Just to give a glimpse of what even the demigods, being in such an exalted position, they are also attached to this kind of fruitive activities. How many times Indra could have direct darshan of the Lord? But did he ask for devotional service? Every time he goes with some problem. मुझे बहुत परेशान है अभी, इन्होंने ये राक्षस ने अटैक किया है, वो राक्षस ने अटैक किया है, वो योगी तपस्या कर रहा है, उसका वजह से मेरा चेयर हिल रहा है. But he never asked to remove me from this material anxiety. If you had asked once, you could have easily gone back to Godhead. But whereas there is the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam, where from the very beginning it encourages renunciation from the material life. That's why it is said, a devotee is sum total of all the demigods. Yasyasya bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha. A person who is practicing devotional service, he has all the good qualities of the demigods. Sum total of all the good qualities which the demigods possess. जो भी देव देवताओं के पास अच्छे गुण हैं, सभी अच्छे गुणों को मिलाएंगे तो भी भगवान का जो भक्त है उससे भी ज़्यादा गुण उनका अंदर होते हैं. यस्यास्य भक्तिर् भगवती किंचन सर्वैर् गुणैः तत्र समासते सुरा. देन हराव भक्तस्य कुतो महद्गुणात्. यदि अभक्त है बट उनके पास कितना भी महत्वगुण है, क्या फायदा है? Because manorathena bahirarita. So he is running on the, he is hovering on the plane of the mind. Manoratha, chariot of mind. He is dictated by his own mind. That's why Maya, Apahruta, Gnana, they will not surrender to the Supreme Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam, from the very beginning, it encourages renunciation of material life. That's why प्रभु जी जब भी क्लास लेते हैं, बर्थ डेथ ओल्ड एज डिसीज, रिनंसिएशन, ये करो वो ये छोड़ो वो छोड़ो, हमेशा नेगेटिव चीज़ें बात करते हैं. करेक्ट राइट? मेनी पीपल दे कैन नॉट एक्सेप्ट. वेयर एज प्रभु जी हम दूसरा XYZ कैंप में गए थे, वहाँ पे तो बोला आप ये भी करो वो भी करो सब करो कोई दिक्कत नहीं, उसका साथ साथ ये करो बोल दिया. बट वेयर एज आप लोगों का पास क्लास में आते हैं, पूरा क्लास में भाई सिर्फ नेगेटिव बातें करते रहते हो. ये मत खाओ वो मत खाओ, ये मत करो वो मत करो, दान करो, पैसे भी रहने नहीं देते हाथ में. Why is that? Because the very nature of our philosophy, what we practice, that states from the very beginning. Renunciation, Nivrutti Marga. We are not followers of Pravrutti Marga. We are followers of Nivrutti Marga. So one is about renunciation, and second is nectarian accounts of Lord Hari's transcendental pastimes, which give extra to the saintly devotees and demigods. So this is the reason the followers of Bhakti Yogis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially recommends that we should read Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. What happens by Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya? Automatically the material desires will go away. और सभी भौतिक इच्छा भाग जाएंगे, सभी भौतिक इच्छाओं से हम प्यूरिफाई हो जाएंगे. दूसरा, we will be able to hear the Lord's holy name with great attention. So this is the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the next verse, Suta Goswami is saying, if on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. So that's why Bhadra Purnima is very, very popular among some of the devotees. So they worship Srimad Bhagavatam, and they also gift Srimad Bhagavatam to their near and dear ones. And what will happen? He will attain the supreme transcendental destination by worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam and gifting Srimad Bhagavatam. Then further, all other Puranic scriptures shrine forth in the assembly of saintly devotees only as long as that great ocean of nectar, Srimad Bhagavatam, is not heard. So as long as we are not hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then only all Puranic scriptures, they play great importance. The moment Srimad Bhagavatam is chanted, so they all lose their importance. Lose their importance means because devotee has a highest subject matter to study now. He will not take relish in Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Well, generally, Mahabharata or Ramayana or any other kind of Puranas, generally we don't read, or neither it is recommended by Srila Prabhupada. Why is that so? Yes, because it's in the form of stories, so it gives it brings interest in the subject matter for the for the listener or for the person who is studying. But that is not our that's not the goal. That's why it is meant for Stri Shudra Dvija Bandhunam, for the less intelligent class of men. Those who cannot take to the study of Vedanta Sutras, those who cannot take to the study of direct glorification of the Supreme Lord. So for them, this kind of indirect glorification is given. Otherwise, a serious and inquisitive person, one who really wants advancement, one who really wants relief from all material pangs, he is recommended to take to reading of Srimad Bhagavatam directly. So that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very important, and Narada Muni here is telling to Vasudeva that you write Srimad Bhagavatam, and if you write Srimad Bhagavatam, you are doing great service to the mankind, as well as you also will feel satisfied. Sometimes people say कि मैंने बहुत कुछ कमा चुका हूँ, but फिर भी मेरा अंदर शांति नहीं है. So then they take up to some charitable works. आत्म संतुष्टि, कुछ मेरा संतुष्टि के लिए, मेरा खुशी के लिए मैं कुछ करना चाहता हूँ. So then they take it to charitable activity in spite of doing all these things. Similarly here Narada Muni is recommending to Vasudeva that you take Srimad Bhagavatam. you explain Srimad Bhagavatam. So by doing so, you will become satisfied, and as well as the people in general, whether they are advanced in knowledge or whether ignorant general mass of people, both will get benefited by this great literature. With this, I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Bol.